Our U.S. Open women's semifinals are officially set after Amanda Anisimova and Naomi Osaka scored excellent straight sets wins over Iga Swiatek and Karolina Muchova. I'll talk about how both Naomi and Amanda made it through to the semifinals, Iga's very interesting post-match press conference exchange, and preview this Osaka-Anisimova big ball striking brigade. What's good? My name is Christian Basnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my men's semifinal preview video. Amanda Anisimova was the first woman through on day 11 into the semifinals, earning a impressive 6-4, 6-3 victory over second seed Iga Swiatek. I had Iga winning this one in 3 sets, but I said that I would not be surprised at all if Amanda took this match. Everyone was fully aware that their last meeting was pretty one-sided, to say the least. It was a 6-love, 6-love beatdown in the Wimbledon final a few months ago, so a lot of people didn't give Amanda much of a fighting chance here, but I was very impressed by her form in her 4th round victory over Hadaj Maya, as her ball striking was so clean, she was serving well, and she moved a lot better. And I think that Amanda this tournament has looked better than she did at Wimbledon. And Iga, meanwhile, her form this tournament has looked weaker than it did at SW19, and we've seen that forehand fly a lot more here in New York compared to in London. A lot of things were against Amanda also in Wimbledon. She was gassed from the rounds prior, especially that grueling semifinal against Sabalenka, whereas Iga had kind of cruised through the tournament, especially in the latter stage. And also that was her biggest match of her career by far, and it was her first slam final and Iga's 6th slam final, and she just was not ready for that occasion at the moment. She was a lot more refreshed. She was ready for the battle too, and she also had the crowd behind her, the crowd support, which was, I think, a pretty big factor, decent factor at least, throughout this match. Amanda, she was broken in her very first game, and we were like, oh Lord, not again. Please at least get a game on the board. And she responded by breaking Iga's serve right back the next game, and that helped her settle in for sure. Swiatek did have a few more break point opportunities to get an advantage at 2-all, but her forehand let her down badly at this point. She framed her first forehand and then netted the second one. Amanda played a pretty clutch game though to seal the hold, as she served a second serve ace after that and finished the game with a backhand down the line winner. And after this hold, I said, okay, Amanda is taking it. She's in her move for real. Anisimova didn't face another break point in the first set, and she did a great job of maintaining control from the ground, and she was the one moving her opponent around and getting Iga all out of position. And I think that Anisimova set herself up well with those strong first serves, and she had slightly higher first serve percentage compared to Iga. Amanda had 56% of her first serves in compared to Swiatek's 50% first serve percentage. And Anisimova, she won 71% of her first serve points compared to Iga's 70%. So again, not a big disparity in that regard. But the second serve was definitely a bigger outlier in this match. Anisimova was the better returner, I think, which we rarely say of Iga's opponents. She did not let Swiatek really breathe at all, and she got the ball right back on the pole, and Swiatek just could not handle the heat at times. Simple as that. And Iga won just 33% of her second serve points compared to Amanda's 52% second serve points won success rate. Iga was able to give Amanda a bit of a taste of her own medicine to start the second set, as she broke the American route off the bat, and all 4 points that Swiatek won were from Amanda missing her first serve. Swiatek went up 2-love in the second set, but Amanda immediately erased that deficit thanks to just strong returning and pushing Iga back, and that allowed Amanda to step up and go for the kill from the ground. Once again, in the second set, Iga's return was a pretty big issue. The first 2 points of the 2-all game in set number 2, Amanda gave Iga 2 second serve looks in these points, but Iga gifted Amanda 2 free points from just wild missed returns. The return issues, I think, maybe bled into Iga's serving, as I think it may have put more pressure on Swiatek to hit quality first serves, which she just was not doing for much of the time. And Iga was not hitting her spots as well as she was in Cincinnati, and Amanda was feasting. I thought that Iga should have maybe directed more serves to Amanda's forehand. Now, I think that Anisimova, she did feel some slight nerves when it came time to close, but I think that the tennis gods, they said, you know what, this girl has gone through a lot. She lost her daddy, and she was double bageled in the Wimbledon final. We got to give her a break. We got to cut her some slack. And they gave her a few edgy net courts to help her clinch her final 2 service games to seal the deal. It was not a terrible match from Iga, but I don't think it definitely wasn't good. She finished with 13 winners to 15 unforced errors, although I think that she made a lot of forced errors from just pressure from Amanda's clean ball striking. Unlike at Wimbledon, Iga was the one, again, being rushed the majority of the time, and she did not have as much control on her forehand, and that kind of reminded me of her loss here in the quarterfinals last year to another American, Jessica Pegula. Also, Iga just was not returning as solid in this match, again, as I keep saying. Anisimova, meanwhile, she played a great match. It was very clean hitting from the ground with her, and that impressed me because I thought that after the first set, she would take it in 3 at least. I thought that she would maybe waver perhaps, but nah, she kept it really tidy and clean, finishing with 23 winners to just 12 unforced errors. I was obviously very impressed by Amanda's game, but also maybe even more by her mentality. That Wimbledon loss, I think, would have crushed many people and many players, losing love and love in that final, but it seemed to actually have benefited her, and she mentioned that in her press conference, and now she's even more positive, I think, in the tight moments, so it's great on her that she was able to turn lemons into lemonade. Now, before moving on and talking about the other semifinal or other quarterfinal match, I do want to highlight a rather testy moment with Iga in her post-match press conference when she was asked if she maybe would take a mental break.
It's been a lot of tennis the last few weeks. Wimbledon, the American tournaments leading up to this, now this. How tired are you at the moment?
Well, I don't know, like, it's not like my matches were exhausting here.
Do you feel like you need a mental break? I'm not talking about the loss as such.
Why would you say that?
I just wondered. You know, it's just a lot in the row. You know, do you look forward to a break? Or?
People responsible for the schedule. We need to adjust. Do you need mental break?
Sorry?
You look like you need mental break.
I do, yeah.
Well, then what are you doing here?
Well, got to get to the end of the tournament.
Good luck.
David Law of the Tennis Podcast asked that question, apparently. And I know I see some people, they feel some type of way about David and how maybe he baits Iga or something like that. I've seen a few people say that. And I think maybe I'm clearly in the minority because he was getting tore up in the comments, but I personally didn't see too much wrong with him asking if she could benefit from a mental break, considering how she and other players have been outspoken about how grinding the tour is. I think how many people interpreted this question is like he's only asking her this because she lost, and maybe that's how Iga interpreted the question, but that's not really a question you ask someone after they win. Like, oh, are you mentally tired? Are you going to take a break when they still have a tournament to play? Iga's tournament was over, so I don't think it was too far-fetched of a question. Now, I also think that maybe Iga is just tired of this type of question because literally after her quarterfinal loss last year to Pegula at this US Open, she was asked a very similar question of whether she would maybe take a break after this tournament, and Iga clearly didn't like that question either.
You have rightfully spoken about how long the schedule is and how exhausted you've been and how stressful it is. Would you consider just taking a few months off and trying to refresh and just, if you're tired, why not? Think about taking a good rest.
No, I don't think it would make sense. If you're out of tour, then it's pretty hard to come back.
Even you?
I mean,
I guess I'm.
But I don't want to take a break, so
okay, no.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, it could be a little bit easier, but I'm keeping up with the schedule. I'm only talking about mandatory tournaments and the rules about mandatory tournaments. But I'm ready for playing till November, I guess. unless I'm going to get injured.
Again, I get the reasoning of the question why they'd asked, because Iga has been outspoken about the schedule stuff, but clearly I think we need to know just to not ask her this type of question because she doesn't like it, clearly enough. Now moving on and talking about the actual tennis, Naomi Osaka reached her first Slam semifinal since the 2021 Australian Open with a very high quality 6-4, 7-6 victory over Karolina Muchova. This was a revenge win for Osaka because while she did beat Muchova at the Australian Open in the second round, she lost to Muchova here last year in the US Open second round by a score of 6-3, 7-6. And this was, to me, a much higher quality match this year compared to last year's. And I think it's mainly because Naomi is a better player now in every single aspect than she was back then. And I think that's how I'm going to analyze this match, talking about just really highlighting the key differences that gave Naomi more success comparing this year to last year's. First of all, we saw many more longer rallies in this match, which I think is thanks to Naomi's improved shot tolerance. And she's able to hang in rallies a little bit longer and build points more instead of pulling the trigger at inappropriate times. And I think that goes hand in hand with the next point, which is that her movement and fitness has improved a lot throughout the last 12 months. And I think that her movement also got her a few more points whenever Karolina pulled a few more tricks out of her bag. The return, I think, was a massive improvement for Naomi as well. Last year, Osaka won just 36% of her second serve return points, but this year she doubled it and won 62% of her second serve return points, which is huge, very huge. And I think that was a big factor in why she was able to break Muchova in the crucial moments in the second set, in the first set as well. Lastly, Naomi was just more clutch and just mentally tough in the big moments here. Last year, she infamously fumbled 3-set points at 5-4 when she served for the second set. And honestly, despite her physical issues and fatigue coming into this match, Muchova still, I think she played better here this year than she did last year. And I think it could have been another straight sets win for her if Naomi, again, was not as clutch. Muchova had a break point the very first game of the match, and Naomi saved it with a great point, finishing it off with a forehand winner. And then she had a 15-30 look, Muchova did, at 4-all on Naomi's serve, but Naomi, she had an ace and then played 2 excellent points to dig herself out of the hole and hold serve. In the second set, Osaka faced 2 break points at 5-all, but saved them both with a forehand winner and then a near backhand winner. And then even when she faced adversity and got broken, Naomi bounced back very strong. Naomi broke right back immediately when she was broken in the first game of the second set and when she was broken when she was serving at 4-all. And that break back at 4-5 was very impressive because it looked like Naomi might have been on the verge of crashing out after she dropped her serve at 4-all. Now looking ahead to Anisimova and Osaka, these two played twice in 2022 at the first 2 majors of that year, the Australian Open and Roland Garros, where Anisimova won both those meetings. The Australian Open match is definitely more important to consider because it was on hard courts and Naomi was injured at Roland Garros and that was on clay. That Melbourne match was one of the best matches of 2022. It was nip and tuck and Anisimova won it 7-6 in the third set, and Naomi, she had 2 match point opportunities, so that goes to show just how tight this one was. And it was just pure big first strike tennis, not many long rallies, but the rallies that we did see were pretty high quality. I am intrigued by this matchup because I think that with the way that Naomi is playing right now, the match is in Anisimova's hands. Now, walk with me here. I'm not saying that because Amanda's the favorite. I'm not saying she's the favorite. I'm saying it's in her hands because Naomi is a bit more consistent, I feel, from the ground. She's not playing as risky first strike tennis that Amanda is. And at the Australian Open, Amanda took more initiative and changed directions a lot, which I think served her well. And because it kept Naomi from trying to use her angles, especially with that forehand, to pull Anisimova wide, where Anisimova is more vulnerable, especially on that forehand side. That's something Naomi has done exceptionally well throughout this entire US Open, and she's going to for sure look to do this again here in the semifinal. I think the serve is going to be huge for both players in this semifinal. Both women, I think, need a very strong stay on their first serves, and I think whoever has the lower first serve will lose the match because both will look to eat that second serve up alive. Both are incredible at attacking the second serves. Probably Anisimova even more so than Osaka. So I think that maybe Anisimova might have the slight return edge. On the topic of advantage Anisimova, I think that Amanda brings a different type of power, consistent firepower from the ground that Naomi has not seen yet. Just thinking back at her opponents, I think the greatest threat against her as far as firepower was Karolina Muchova, and she doesn't match up to Amanda Anisimova. And I think that maybe Amanda could throw Naomi off because she hasn't, again, seen this type of consistent ball striking from the ground. Also, Amanda, she was just in a slam semifinal, which she won at Wimbledon, whereas it's been since 2021 where Naomi last played her last slam semifinal and won it, of course. Osaka is 4-0 in slam semifinals, so maybe this factor won't be as big because she seems to maybe play her best tennis in the latter stage of a slam, but you never know. It could, the Montreal Demons could come back to bite. Then also, Amanda, I don't know if this will be a huge asset for her too, because it might be more evenly balanced than I'm expecting, but I think that she will have the slight crowd support here. She is obviously American, but Naomi, she's the adopted American from the New Yorkers because she's so beloved. She's a two-time champion, and people just want to root for her because they all are aware of her comeback story. Also, I think that Amanda, she has the head-to-head edge, so I think that she has the confidence in knowing that, of course, she's beaten Naomi before, and meanwhile, Naomi, maybe the scar tissue, even though it was 3 years ago from that close Australian Open match and loss, could come back to bite and hurt her. Looking at Naomi's advantages, I think that I mentioned this before, but Osaka is the more consistent player from the ground, which I think can serve her more overall in the long term of this match. Naomi is the slightly better mover than Amanda. Anisimova has improved her movement a lot, but I still will give the edge to Naomi at this point. Osaka is the better spot server on her first serve at least. And then two, I might give Naomi more of a clutch factor here. While yes, Amanda was pretty clutch against Iga, the old Naomi, where she just saves break points with aces and big serves and bombs, will maybe come back here in this semifinal. Giving y'all my prediction, I will be having Osaka take this one in 3 sets. A big reason why I'm going with Naomi is that I think her overall base level is just simply more reliable than Anisimova. Amanda, she can be a little bit streaky at times, and with her forehand, it's very much timing and vibes and momentum based, I feel. Osaka's is a more reliable forehand, although that forehand can go off the rails as well. But I just think that it might be difficult to ask Amanda to also sustain that same level she showed against both Haddad Maia and Swiatek again in the semifinal. But this very well, she might do it. Like, she just might be that girl to where it's just the mark of an incredible title run where she plays solid match after solid match after solid match after solid match. But still, typically, it's pretty hard to back up a big win like she got against Iga, especially coming back the very next day. I think that Amanda's game is also a little bit more exploitable than Naomi's at the moment. Osaka can break down the forehand a little bit more, which can be a little bit a tad shakier. I think that Tomas, though, will give her a better game plan of directing more serves to the Amanda forehand. Yes, Naomi did finish later than Amanda, so that might put her at a little bit of a disadvantage, and maybe I could see Amanda starting out a little bit stronger, but ultimately I think that it'll come down to the more consistent, bigger ball striker, and that is Naomi in this case. So that's why I'm having her make her third US Open semifinal. That is all I have for my last women's semifinal preview. If you have not watched my other one between Sabalenka and Pegula, that was my last video. Go ahead and watch that. And also, I know I pretty much neglected all the men's action, and I did not talk about both Felix and Jannik's victories, but I will discuss more about them in my semifinal preview, my men's semifinal preview coming later on today. Again, make sure you all subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post that video. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.